Coming to you live from deep within an icy, radioactive wasteland, we are the survivors of the social justice zombie apocalypse. The few, the brave, the bitchy, once more wading into battle against the zombie herds with Rantzerker number 49. Own your shit. Hashtag own your shit.
Fucking own it, bitches.
Own it. Own it. Okay.
And when you finish owning it, pwn it. And then pwn it again.
Pwn it. Yes, that is an excellent idea. Did you guys hear that echo there? Going through my speakers?
I have not heard an echo, so...
Okay, that's good. Alright, good.
Okay. Alright,
before we get stuck in with this, I'd just like to do a call out. We are doing a retooling week next week. Just to, and we're taking all of your suggestions, what you want us to change, what you're enjoying, what you think would be better, what you would like to see, and send them all to topic@badgerpod.com. Just think really hard about it. Everything is on the table. It may be that during this week we all decide we're just going to throw in the towel, and we'll do something else.
Well, okay, that would be awesome for me because, you know, frankly, this is a lot of fucking work, right? And I'd rather be, you know, just whoring and drinking.
Yeah, I can't stand the sight of any of you. You're all cunts. I finally said it.
Pretty much, yeah. No.
That's faggot cunt to you, mister.
God damn it.
I'm a faggot cunt.
Yes, something like that. Cunt faggot.
Cunt faggot. Whichever. Cunt faggot. The term could be, I guess, either a cunt faggot or a faggot cunt.
Or funt. Funt sounds funny.
Funt. I am a funt. Anyway. Alright, I think we're probably engaging in what one might term procrastination.
Yeah, well, you know, I'm having one of those days, so we better just get on with this. Let's just fucking attack it. Let's just rip it apart like my dog does to her freaking little stuffed animal that is her surrogate mother and also the thing that she kills on a regular basis.
Wow.
Yeah, no,
Freud would have a field day with that.
She's got serious fucking mommy issues because she sucks on that thing. She's made her teeth crooked from sucking on this thing, right? Because it's her mommy. But at the same time, she like routinely just like rah, kills it. So yeah, no, she's got a complex relationship with her maternal provider.
All right, and with that, let's we're reviewing Own Your Voice, standing up for gender equality, at least standing up for one side of the equation, I assume. Did anyone else find that purple line going up like that to be very phallic?
It really was. It was sort of like, that's
a little something. Yeah. Yes, that's a thing. That's an interesting choice in graphic. A purple line penetrating a sky. It's sort of Egyptian, almost.
Yeah. Actually, it was kind of like the inverse of Independence Day when the beam comes down and blows all the buildings up.
Yeah. All right. When is this kind of shit gonna stop being a thing? Like this putting out words like this?
I don't know. I don't know if. Who knows?
I'm a veteran.
Oh wait, you guys hear
homeless. That? I just want everyone to feel like they're all equal. They're all of value. Just.
Okay, can you guys hear that? Because I'm having trouble with it.
Yeah.
Through my story, I felt like women.
What? For some reason, the music is playing through this much louder than the actual words that these people are saying. Should I?
Just play it and deal with it, Alison.
We can make it out.
I've been homeless. I just.
Okay, you can. All right, let's listen.
I'm a veteran.
She's a veteran.
I've been homeless.
She's been homeless. Both issues that disproportionately affect men. And they get disproportionately less services for.
Yeah.
But
actually, somebody in the comments of the ad said that you do qualify as a veteran for 2 years of sheltering, right, to prevent homelessness, right? For men, it's a 10 by 10 apartment, 3 to an apartment. For women, it's a much larger, nicer 2-bedroom space with a maximum capacity of 2 people. So essentially, they're putting the men up in like studio apartment, and they're put 3 in a studio apartment, and they're putting the women up at the Ritz.
It sounds like the men are getting jail cells and the women are getting, reasonable student accommodation.
Yeah.
What a dick you are.
Yeah.
What the fuck does this have to do with disenfranchisement of women?
Yeah, what does that have to do with equality?
Yeah, I mean, all you think about is the female side of the equation. The fact that there isn't one single female veteran that something bad has happened to. Oh, well, that means women are oppressed. Even if proportionately way more bad things happen to male veterans and they get less services.
Yeah.
Oh, what the... Madam, you use this word. I don't think you know what it means.
Yeah, no, and honestly, look at her on the right here. Anybody who has that amount of time to invest in what they look like is, really doesn't have a whole lot to complain about, I don't think.
I'm not sure. Like, why would they bring up these 2 issues that disproportionately affect men more?
I don't know. They'll explain it at some point. I don't fucking know, but it's like they just.
Mike, do you want to get in here? Do you want to say something?
No, I'm eating curry. Carry on.
Carry on.
Because they're retarded, and they think that people are just going to swallow this without ever asking any questions, and they know it. They know that's what they want to do, because if they actually wanted people to stop and think, they would not sort of splice all of this sensory information, like the music, the audio, like the speaking, the images, right? Split screen at the same time too, because then you're paying attention to 2 visual images at the same time. You're trying to hear what she's saying over top of the music, right? And it's all coming bam, 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 bam. It's the same fucking thing as always. If they don't want you to actually think about what's being said, they do it like this.
Yeah, this is like the shittiest VR ever. Like, because with VR you have one side and then the other side, and they're slightly different, so they come together in your brain to make it look like it's, you know what I mean?
3D?
3D, yeah. This is the shittiest 3D ever. Okay, moving on.
I just want everyone to feel like they're all equal, they're all of value,
but not men.
Through my story.
Your story as a veteran and as a homeless veteran, both of which disproportionately affect men.
Yeah, and as somebody who has, I can't even begin to tell you how much her appearance costs her, right?
Yeah.
Not even counting her clothes, right? Or the jewelry, right? But just the hair and the makeup. You're looking at hundreds of dollars a month just on hair and makeup.
Well, she could have been made up for this, but she certainly looks pretty healthy for someone who just rolled in off the streets. Regardless, she probably wasn't literally homeless, like unsheltered homeless. She probably was sleeping on someone's couch, I imagine. But, because that's, and I'm saying that not because I'm discounting her anecdote, but I'm actually bringing in statistical reality.
Yeah.
The majority of the majority of women who are homeless are not unsheltered homeless.
Yeah,
they actually have a place to stay.
They're sleeping on a friend's couch. They're sleeping on their parents' couch. They're like there's somebody who was willing to put them up, right? Maybe they're couch surfing, between, you know, friends and relatives, but or even between, they can even, and this is, you know, apparently a factor of, you know, that feminists will say that's part of like female oppression, but, you know, women who are homeless at least have the option of trading sex for shelter.
Indeed.
Right? Men don't.
So pointing out that she's more likely to not only have better benefits as a female veteran than a male veteran, but as a person who's homeless and female, she's more likely to actually not be sleeping in a ditch. So, and how does this have to do with equality? Do you want to actually live in a prison cell or sleep in a ditch? Is that what you want? Do you want to be equal to a man?
I think she does. I'd like to see that. I absolutely would, because then, you know, feminists would have something to actually bitch about.
Yeah, if women actually had this, we're experiencing the situation as men, but then they wouldn't bitch about it, because women would be going through the same obstacle course of achievement that men go through, and if they wash out, no one would care.
Yeah, there wouldn't be any point in bitching about it, would there?
No, because then they would be told to woman up. Well, let's see what this one has to say.
Like women of plus size were not being represented fully.
Men of plus size. Have you ever seen a calendar with plus size men?
Like, she's talking about that women of plus size are not adequately represented in the fashion industry. But if you actually go out, like there are numerous freaking stores for plus size men and women, right? You're not going to find a lot of super edgy stuff in them. You're probably going to find things like what she's wearing here, which are, you know, normal, modest, middle-of-the-road styles of clothes that, you know, sort of work anywhere. You know, like, so you can go to Reitman's, you can go to Pennington's, you can go to there's a whole bunch of freaking plus-sized stores in my area. In fact, like there's no shortage of where you can go to find plus size clothes. In fact, the plus size section at Walmart is bigger than the regular size section for women's clothes. There's more there in the plus size section, right, than there is in the regular section. You're just not going to find edgy styles like skinny jeans and, you know, and super low rise jeans and things like that in the plus size section, because those styles don't work on plus size bodies.
When it's fashion, it's all about the clothes. Sorry,
Karen.
When it's especially in sort of high fashion with catwalks and shit, it's all about the clothes rather than the body, and that's why models tend to be quite thin, because that's the kind of thing you want to hang your clothes on so you can see the clothes properly. There's a reason we hang clothes on coat hangers rather than wrap them around a fucking armchair. Yeah, so models represent coat hangers. They look like fucking coat hangers. That's why they're so fucking skinny.
Mike?
Essentially.
Mike, I gotta say something to that. I think you should join. I think you are an oppressive shit lord because you don't agree with me that humans need to be represented in Kentucky Derby winners, in the Kentucky Derby circle. Like, seriously. Why are we using horses? It's not because, I mean, it's because we're speciesist. It's not because horses are suited for the task. It's because we're fucking speciesist. Okay, I guess this fell flat. I'll move on.
We should be using parrots instead.
Yes. Parrots? Well, why not lemurs?
Yeah, that's closer to humans, I suppose.
Yeah. Or like some other, like, why should a group or an industry use something that is appropriate to the task at hand? As you were saying, like, skinny people perform better as clothes hangers. Horses perform better as horses. What is this? What is this horrible oppression? Okay, I'm gonna move on.
All right.
Everybody's like, yeah, fucking shut up.
In the fashion market.
My voice evolved from creating fun and light videos to videos that actually have a message.
I've used...
Oh,
Wait.
The message.
Wait. That wasn't the same woman, the I was raped woman, was it? No.
I don't know.
No. Okay.
Actually have a message.
It was so fast. It went by so fast that it just sort of reminded me of her.
I don't even know who the I was raped woman is.
I was raped when my mother called someone else's daughter a slut.
I think that was
when my brother teased another girl. Yeah.
Okay, well, someone in the chat, do a search on Hylia. It's from Gazal.
Yeah, no. Because the I was raped girl was from India, I believe.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking. I'm pretty sure she was from India.
Yeah.
Okay, well, good on you. I'm not going to complain about someone who's actually bringing up legitimate issues that women face. I would prefer that you not do it in the context of saying that only women face issues, but at least you're doing something.
From creating fun and light videos to videos that actually have a message.
I've used my platform.
You see, that's the thing about this. If this was titled not standing up for gender equality, but standing up for problems women face, wouldn't that be more honest? Because the implication by the title, Standing Up for Gender Equality, is that these are problems that are disproportionately faced by women.
Yeah.
And that is so patently false.
Yeah, no, I mean, look at even the one about fashion, right? Okay, now number one, fashion for men is
it's shit. It's worse than fashion for fat women.
Well, yeah, what's acceptable for men to wear is extremely limited.
Just like for fat women.
Yeah, but no, more limited than for fat women. But at the same time, if you're like my boyfriend and you have a specific, and I have this problem too, right? My legs and arms are both very long compared to the rest of my body, and therefore I have trouble finding pants that are long enough. I have trouble finding jackets where the sleeves are long enough. My shoulders are really broad, and my bust is quite significant, so I have trouble finding jackets, coats, anything like that will actually close over my front and fit my shoulders without looking like a muumuu, without fitting me like a tent. When I was shopping for bathing suits, when I was a little bit larger, I was about 60 pounds heavier than I am right now. In order to fit my bust, I would have, my entire body was a size 14. If I needed to fit my bust in a one-piece bathing suit, I would have to go size 26, right? In order to just have my boobs to be contained by the suit, right? I mean, and I spent $128 on a bikini top because that was the only way I could get a bikini top that fit me properly, right?
You had to get clothes for your boyfriend.
With my boyfriend, he's right at the top edge of normal suits, right? So you go to the normal suit store, he's in the largest size available, right? And the couple of times he's maybe put on 10 pounds and he went to go get pants and they sent him to the big and tall store, right? You go to the big and tall store, those pants, right, when you go up that one size, they're cut completely differently. They're cut for a completely different shape. They're cut for fat guys, not for big guys, but for fat guys with gigantic guts, right? Big butts, right? And all of that. They're not just built for men who are like tree trunks. They're built for, Al Roker, right? And so, I mean, it's impossible for him to find clothes that fit him properly. It's next to impossible. It's really difficult for me to find clothes that fit me properly, whether when I was heavier, now again when I'm thinner, right? Okay, so everybody has problems. I don't see why fat women are special. I don't see why
because they're entitled to being desirable. This is the thing. They're not comparing. They're not actually comparing women to men. They're comparing women to a utopia in which women don't suffer at all. Because that's what they think men. That's where they think men are.
Yeah, I think that you're right.
That they literally think that men are in a utopia where they are not suffered and they are entirely catered for.
Yeah.
And that's how they can advance shit like, oh yeah, standing up for female veterans and homeless is standing up for gender equality.
Yeah.
When they are treated better than their male counterparts.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Unless Mike has something to say.
Carry on. Banana. Yay, I got to say banana. I'll say it again. Banana.
Form to speak out on women's issues.
Yo me expreso con mi voz para decirle al mundo, todos somos igualitos.
We are equal. How come guys don't get to say this? You know, they don't get to have like shows like this where they're like, I'm a veteran and I'm homeless. And stand up for gender equality. Own your voice. Stand up for gender equality, men. But how come they don't get to do that?
Because that would be whining, Allison.
Yeah.
Because then you might get called names like MRA.
Oh, men's rights activist. You advocate for men's rights. You're a men's rights advocate. Okay. Thank you, Captain Obvious. Like, what you have added absolutely nothing to the conversation. Nothing.
In fact, you've removed all the letters except 3.
Yeah. Well,
you've actually subtracted from the conversation there, friend.
Yeah, but it's exactly right. Like, and this is getting into what we're going to discuss after we finish this. But somewhat, I advocate for men's rights. Okay, so I go on to a space and I say something that's advocacy for men's rights. Or even do something that could be resembling being an activist for men's rights. And then someone toddles along and says, you're a men's rights advocate. So what? Like, you've added literally nothing to the proceedings. You've added 0 additional information. Congratulations. You know, when I run, I'm a runner. You add nothing to the conversation by pointing out that I am a men's rights advocate when I'm advocating for men's rights. And why is it that we have to have this extended argument about identifying as men's rights activists or advocates when doing so adds nothing? It's not additional information. There's no additional information by saying, oh, I'm a men's rights advocate. I'm not offering any additional information aside from actually that I go out of my way sometimes in situations that warrant it to advocate for men's rights. Okay, I'm sorry. Both of you are silent.
This afterwards.
Sorry?
We'll get into this afterwards.
Yeah. Oh, holy shit snacks, Batman. Filler. Sorry?
Montage. I wonder how much of this is going to be montage.
This is a translation from, I believe, Brazil? Portuguese.
Portuguese.
Yeah, I use my voice to provoke discussion. Is there any human being on the planet that doesn't do that? I mean, seriously. Like, you're just in a coffee shop with your friends. What are you doing with your voice? Aside from provoking discussion.
Well, okay.
Preventing discussion? But a lot of people do that with their voice.
Yeah, I guess you could be preventing discussion.
Or you could be just like telling somebody, careful, that's hot.
Yeah, but that could provoke a discussion.
As to whether it's hot or as to yeah. Okay.
Yeah, isn't it funny how things are hot? Yeah, it is quite funny that things are hot. It's thermodynamics. Let's talk about thermodynamics. Yeah, why not?
Yeah, that could provoke a discussion. There are a lot of things, there are a lot of statements that one makes throughout a day that provokes discussion. I need to use the bathroom. Why did it already?
There's all kinds of things you can say that promote discussion, and don't call yourself that. It's not one of them.
I'm a person that provokes discussion. I'm a discussion provoker.
You're a DP.
Don't call yourself a DP, Alison. Them people are awful. Well, that's about 99% of the population of everybody, everywhere, and throughout all of history. I don't think there's one person throughout all of history who has not provoked a discussion. Those fucking discussion provokers.
Assholes.
Race is my identity. What you say is who you become.
What you say is who you become. Oh, jeez, the shit posters are really in trouble. All the trolls.
Yeah. Well, you know, I think
I say cunt quite a lot. I think that makes me a cunt, doesn't it?
Well, maybe you need to get yourself a cunt costume. You should hit up the very, very, very humorless person in, I think, Amsterdam, or was it in a Swedish city, who was this woman has to be seen to be believed.
Oh,
she has a gigantic cunt-sicle, a cunt bicycle that she reels around town in.
Yeah, no.
And she is the most humorless person I have ever seen in my life. If you're going to make your bicycle resemble genitals, you should have a sense of humor about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's one of those bicycle cabs or something, and you actually crawl into the vagina to ride on the back of her bicycle cab.
And she looks like I don't know, a Nazi prison guard.
Yeah.
She's so fucking like she sucks humor out of this everything, and she's got this gigantic frilly cunt on a bike, and she's standing right next to it, and she's like sucking the humor out of it.
Yeah, she looks like the second in command in the movie Reform School Girls. You know, like the assistant freaking prison.
Is this woman's sweater an allusion to the llamas with hats?
I think so.
Carl.
Oh. Okay, guess done?
No.
Well then, okay. Oh, for fuck's sake! Okay. You know, there is sort of like we're trying to some level. Some semblance of work ethic. Okay, are you guys done with the car? Okay,
the problem with this is we're trying to like deconstruct a video that is 2 minutes long, that is spliced together like bam, 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 bam. So every time you unpause it for even like 1 second while one of us is talking, we've missed something.
All right. Okay. I just need to know.
All right, I'm done. Good.
Yes, but there's another person in this equation.
Carl.
Because it's the first step in bringing awareness to things that are important.
Jesus fucking Christ! Vague mission statements for the win. I provoke discussion, unlike any other human being on the fucking planet, every time I open my mouth, to bring awareness to things that are important.
Because the important things are more important than the non-important things, you see?
Yes, and let's open our mouths to issue discussion forth from those things that are our mouths. Like, this is so fucking bland. Alright.
YouTube es un lugar en donde podemos expresarnos, ser iguales.
YouTube is a place where we can express ourselves and be equal. Oh, young miss, I beg to differ. I just finished watching a video in which YouTube is described as a horrible den of misogynist inequality.
Well, yeah, no, but she is right, though. YouTube is a place where women and men can express themselves and be equal, be considered to exist within a meritocracy, whether you're PewDiePie or Sargon of Akkad or me or you or Mike or whoever, Noel Plum, Jacqueline Glenn, you know, whoever, right? And you will be judged in a reasonably equal manner based on your merits. Like that's just
No barrier to entry.
There is no barrier to entry. There is the only thing that makes you popular is how many people want to watch your stuff.
All right. Banana.
Todos tenemos la posibilidad de decir lo que queremos.
We all have the possibility of saying what we want, but you don't all have the possibility of getting the same audience, which is, I think, where a lot of people are finding YouTube to be misogynist. Because I believe in the video that I just finished watching, you have to go through 200 of the top YouTubers to find 20 women. Yeah.
Yeah, 20. There are only 20 women in the top 200 of subscribed and watched YouTubers. Yeah.
But they're not all single individuals, surely. There must be loads of top channels that are like groups, or
like Smosh and things like that, right? Yeah.
They include women, so not like that sort of misguided there. There's loads of channels that are both sexes,
Yeah, like this one, sort of. I guess we are.
Well, this is YouTube's freaking channel, isn't it?
Yeah, this is... Wait, what? We are on YouTube.
Yeah, no, but YouTube has its channel, right? That it does YouTube rewinds and it does its own stuff. It puts out its tutorial videos. It's got its own series of channels that are essentially YouTube's YouTube channel.
Okay,
right? And this is a YouTube channel that belongs to YouTube. So literally these women, right? These women who are like, it's so wonderful that we can have a voice, unlike in normal society. They're being platformed on the platform of the platform, right? The platform itself has selected these women and chosen to give them the platform's special platform in order to platform their issues.
So it's sort of platformception.
Well, yeah, but it's essentially like Obama, right? Like, okay, America is all one place, right? Just like YouTube is all one place, and everybody has and these women have been invited into the Oval Office, right? That's essentially what this is. If America was YouTube, these women in this video would be in the Oval Office, conferring with Obama and being given a platform by him.
And complaining that they don't have a platform.
Well,
they're not complaining.
But saying it's so wonderful that we finally can talk.
Oh, yeah, it's so wonderful that us women can finally talk about how much we're victims and damsels. That's never been done before. Okay, banana.
Creo que ahí sí manejamos completamente.
I believe this is how we will achieve equality. I have to read it out loud because there are people who are going to be listening afterwards who may not know how to speak this individual's language. Okay, yeah, sure, we could achieve equality by having everyone have a voice. Then, all right. The first step in ending inequality is through awareness. It starts with your voice. All right. Oh, I see. This is like an ad for YouTube. No wonder it was so fucking vague. This is like some stupid corporate mission statement. Oh, wait, there's more.
Looks like it, yeah. Well,
This is called Advice to My Younger Self.
Hey friends! Something important to talk about. Women should have the same social, political, and economic opportunities as men.
You have more.
That is the important thing here, that we are...
You have more. You have more social, economic, and political opportunities than men. I know you think you don't, but you do. And the reason why is because you have more social, economic, and political power. And we can argue about economic power, but we can't argue with the fact that women earn 77 cents, I think it is, or 73 cents, whatever, to the dollar, but spend an equal dollar. Like they only have to earn 77 cents to spend $1. There you go. Your problem is solved. Let's move on.
Yeah.
Discussing, get up and do something about it.
Yeah, we are. We're telling you that your real problem is that you're being made out to be victims when you're not.
Yeah. Yeah. again, I can't begin to tell you how annoyed I get every time I see somebody who looks, just beautifully made up, right? Standing in front of a nicely painted, wall in probably a, designated area in their house or apartment, which is something that I don't have, doing shit and complaining that they're like underprivileged. That, like these women are being given a platform in YouTube's equivalent of the Oval Office, and you know they're like Sandra Fluke speaking at the Democratic National Convention. Sandra Fluke, who was like, women are so oppressed. I know I'm a law student at one of the most prestigious law schools in America. That $8 birth control, if the government isn't willing to force employers to pay for it, then I'm oppressed, right? And then she gets invited to speak at the DNC, and somehow she's still oppressed.
Well, it's really simple. As long as a woman is willing to admit that she's a victim of something, she will get a platform. Hell, I got a platform when I said I'm a victim of Calgary Expo. That's like the biggest platform I've ever gotten, because I was a fucking victim. That sort of pisses me off, actually. But I at the same time as I very much appreciate everybody who helped me pursue legal redress.
Well, because you were a victim of that. I mean, you were actually a victim of that. Like, that was a legitimate fucking claim that you made, that you were treated really, really, really unfairly and really egregiously for no good reason whatsoever, for no justification whatsoever. There are victims out there. People can be victims, right? But this whole idea that you're a victim because your
vagina.
Yeah. Or because you're fat.
Well, let's not even we don't have to get into the fat shit. Also, I might remind that large people that you guys earn more and you're more represented in government, so you're not fucking oppressed. Get over it. Well, at least according to feminist logic. Did you guys know that? That higher BMI for women up to overweight is correlated with a greater income.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, so you're making more money. If we use the feminist definition of oppression, fat people need to shut up because they're oppressing the thin women or the thin people.
Yeah, no, but they're really not, because the reason why it's correlated with earning more money is because career women often don't have the time to look after their bodies the way non-career women do. They don't do the kinds of work that non-career women do, that just have jobs and not careers, that you actually get to sort of stay fit while working. And on top of that, they're less likely to be married.
Well, I think actually this also includes married women. So it's across the board. Women who have a household income over average tend to be slightly larger. I'm not talking about hugely obese, but a BMI in the overweight category, according to the statistics. But it's I think part of it might also be because universally across the board, people who are high achievers, who are A types, tend to have trouble. They ironically, even though they're disciplined in every other aspect of their lives, there's a particular problem with being disciplined about food, which makes it difficult for them to be they tend to fall down in the food area of the discipline in their lives. So high-powered, high-working people tend to be a bit fatter because, for whatever reason, the discipline doesn't extend to the food. And part of the reason why is because discipline and willpower is something. It's like a muscle that can be fatigued. So if you use a lot of it during the day just to manage your affairs and take risks and manage other people's needs, which tends to be what high-powered people who are paid well do a lot of, then you have less left over to just say forgo the delicious chocolate cake.
You need to do something to release the stress, and if you don't have cigarettes or alcohol, then there's nothing left but food. Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of cases, people in that position might avoid alcohol because it can have an effect
on your judgment. Yeah.
On your judgment. So they're left with food. And the other thing is that what's really, really terrible about trying to control your food intake is that when you are when your willpower actually is very much like a muscle, so it is replenished through glucose. So if you're trying to willpower away your desire for food, it makes it worse. When somebody figures out that catch-22, they're going to make billions. Anyway, shall I move on?
Yes.
Because I'm sick of the word girl being an insult.
Go.
Oh, you stupid fuck.
So you made man an insult.
Boy.
Girl.
Boy. Stop being such a fucking boy.
Fuck boy. Look. Let's go back into how do you say that word, Mike? The word about words?
Etymology, not entomology. That's insects.
Etymology. Okay, but there's some entomology happening on this woman's.
There's an etymology, not an entomology.
Etymology.
Etymology.
Okay, the etymology of the word boy is servant. Etymology of the word girl is just gender-neutral child. So, don't be a girl means, I'm not sure. Don't be somebody who expects to be served. Don't be a child. And then the other thing is that if these people are so worried about using girl as an insult, why are they creating so many insults using the word man? Like, I mean, you have like fucking government funded fucking propaganda going out trying to make men feel bad about manspreading.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah, you have an
and arrest them for doing it.
You have
allegedly arrest them for doing it.
You have an Australian member of parliament accusing another of mansplaining, and then being like extremely shocked when he called her on it.
Yeah, like why are you using? Like, I don't give a shit that people say, "Why do you throw like a girl?" Like that's the only time I've ever heard that used. But whatever. When you have a government that's paying to use man as an insult to describe bad things in the world. Don't you think that's the scale of this is a little bit different? It's a differential scale. You have just randoms using the term "you throw like a girl," and let's face it, girls do throw bad because they don't learn how to.
Well, it's not just that they don't learn how to. It's because their shoulders tend to be and elbows tend to be jointed slightly differently. It's one of the ways you can tell a female skeleton from a male skeleton is how the shoulders and elbows are, and so. Essentially, girls, even with lots and lots of practice, tend to do more poorly than boys, just, across populations at throwing, because at least throwing overhand, because of that. Because boys' skeletons developed in order to be really good at throwing. What are you doing? Oh my God, why are you pestering me?
Okay, so I'm going to just interject here and just point something out. So the fact that we recognize the servant class is good at things, physical things, that are useful in serving, we tell the servants, boys, I'm going to use the actual meaning of the word boys, we tell the boys, the servants, that they are actually good at some things, and those things usually relate to physical labor. Because of that, we are insulting girls.
Yes, apparently.
Apparently.
Yep.
Can't you just allow that the servants are good at physical labor, Your Highness? Your princessness?
Yeah.
Okay.
Girls are the same as boys.
What did she just say? Girls are the same as boys?
Same as boys.
Wait. The music is really hard.
Are the same as boys.
Girls are the same as boys. I think you're going to be really surprised when you go.
Yeah.
Girls are the same as boys.
No. Young lady. Girls are not the same as boys. Take it back and get a still of this girl. Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure that boy just your average boy. I mean, maybe there are a few boys out there who would want to wear a pale pink shirt with butterflies all over it and have their hair long like that, not in the service of kids, making wigs for kids with cancer or whatever, or being a hippie or being a rebel, but, being gender typical. I'm sorry, but girls are not the same as boys. I am the mother of a girl and boys, and no, girls are not the same as boys. What the fuck? Who is putting this shit into your head? You're like 7 years old.
Maybe that's why she's not advanced enough to actually say the sentence "girls and boys should be equal." So that's the best she can. Because very often feminists say men and women are equal, and very often they say men and women should be equal, and they mean the same thing interchangeably. They just don't bother tidying up their grammar,
Well, but they also equal. Okay, equals are really equal and same are not the same thing. People can have an expectation of equal human dignity, equal treatment.
Is your dog coughing up a liver?
Yes, she is. She's like an old fucking man. Get lost, dog. But equal respect, equal, all of these things, right? Equal rights, equal opportunities, all of those things, right? That does not mean men and women are the same, right? But this young girl thinks, because she doesn't necessarily have the ability to determine.
Why are they getting someone who hasn't yet developed her ability to abstract reason to say this shit? I mean, this is basically getting indoctrination.
Yeah, boys and girls and boys are the same. No, they're not. They're not. They may be equal, or they should be equal. Considered to have equal value, considered to have equal dignity, and be granted equal respect.
But they're not the same. But here's the thing.
Yeah, doesn't mean they're the same.
She's not at a point where she's able to reason in an abstract adult way. That's going to take her another 6 years at least. They're feeding this shit to her when she doesn't have the ability to think critically about it. This is sick shit. And not only are they feeding this idea, they think that they're feeding the idea that boys and girls are equal, but what they're actually feeding her is a victim complex in which she thinks that she is oppressed by boys into not being equal. I guarantee that. Because that is the contrapost. That's the negative space of the statement that she's making. Boys and girls are equal. I have to say this because I live in a society where I'm not going to be treated as equal because I'm a victim because I'm a girl. That is the negative space of what she's been. This is what the negative space of what she's saying. So this is what she's learning during a point in time in her life where she can't even think critically. So they are teaching her a role, a very female-specific role of victim.
Yeah.
And they do this as soon as they teach you the lie that a long time ago boys were considered more valuable than girls. We've all believed this since we were fucking 5, because that's when they tell us this. They think it's an interesting fact of history to lay on children of that age. And it makes boys feel guilty and it makes girls feel wronged. And they can't ever explain how the complexity of those feelings because they're fucking children. But it's there.
And the adults who are telling them that are equally freaking simplistic in their thinking, because it's not that boys were valued more than girls. It's that boys' roles in certain contexts were more useful than girls' roles, and that girls tended to be more costly than boys.
Yeah. And the other thing is that, and you can understand that from the etymology.
Etymology.
Boy means servant. Sometimes you want a servant over a child. Think about that. And people listening to who think that in history boys were treated better than girls. Boys means servant, and sometimes you don't want a kid, you don't want a child, you want a fucking servant. That's why they were more valued.
Well, I mean, I've often sort of given this analogy, and I don't think that it's not 100%. It's exaggerated. It's a hyperbolic analogy because sometimes you have to be hyperbolic in order to show people exactly what you're saying, right? But when you are a dirt poor rice farmer, right, in Hunan province in China, right, and you have the opportunity to own a diamond or a shovel, not both, you can't own both, just one or the other.
And you literally can't actually get to a place where you could sell a diamond.
No, you can't. There's no selling a diamond. You can give a diamond away, right? Or it can be stolen from you, but you can't sell it, right? You can only give it away, right? And if you don't give it away, you have to invest all kinds of time and effort in protecting it.
Which are you going to choose? Does that mean that they value the shovel more than the diamond?
I don't think so. But in that context, the shovel is more useful than the diamond, and it's less of a liability.
Yep. I actually think I like the way I put it, because I'm going to be an arrogant fuck. A boy means servant, a girl means a child. Sometimes in history, people didn't want to have children. They just wanted a servant, so they preferred boys. Think about it. Shall we go on?
Yes.
Same as boys. Do it.
So you're a servant too. Okay, good.
Spread the word.
Rendre compte que en fait on peut faire bouger les choses.
She's saying in French, we can make things change. This is like just so much vague shit. Okay.
It's so important to speak up.
Even if your voice shakes.
You are changing the world.
We need every voice we can give.
So important to speak up even when your voice shakes. I remember speaking up when my voice shook.
Yeah, no, I remember listening to that recording. That recording of you at that Calgary Expo panel. Your voice was shaking. You were nervous. You were extremely polite. But you could tell you were nervous.
These people, I noticed that these women's voices aren't shaking.
No.
Women around the world, something. Unite. Women around the world, let's do it.
Nothing.
It's one thing that women can do. It can cooperate.
Like,
Is more.
Do what? Let's do what?
What shall we do? Shall we continue to talk about ourselves as victims? Continue to occupy the role of damsel? Is this what you're rallying us, this radical proposition to do?
Yeah.
Hey, men, you need to...
Women are victims.
The radical notion that women are victims.
Powerful than your voice.
Nothing is more powerful than my... Thank you. You're right, actually. There is nothing more powerful than women's voices.
That's right. It's like the first honest thing I've seen in this video. There is nothing more powerful than a woman's voice. It's the most amazing thing. They're actually admitting it in a video where they're trying to portray women as having no power whatsoever.
There's nothing more powerful than a woman's voice. You're right. There is nothing more powerful than a woman's voice.
I reckon the LHC might have more power than a woman's voice. But apart from that, the Large Hadron Collider. But apart from that, nothing has more power than a woman's voice.
I actually said I heard NHC, so I'm like, what?
Large Hadron Collider. I was trying to think of a machine that uses lots of power. I'm being abstract.
Okay, I know. I appreciate.
I'm the funny one, you see.
That's okay. You are. I just misheard the H as an N. Not sure why. That seems very strange now that I think about it. But regardless, yes, women's voices are more powerful. They're more powerful than men's. Maybe that means we have an obligation to be responsible with that power.
Well, I would say that's not exactly true. I think that an individual man's voice can be more powerful than an individual woman's voice, but that
only in certain circumstances, though, because if an individual man,
it can be. It can be. I mean, this is why when you're talking big purchases, right, like cars and homes, the voiceovers on the commercials are almost always men, or women who have voices that are pitched lower than the typical woman's voice, because you trust that person. That's why the Allstate guy is that black guy with the super deep voice, right? You know, you trust that guy with super deep voice. He seems authoritarian. He seems to know what he's talking about, and you can trust that he's, you know, got your back, right? Those are the ways that men can speak and have a more powerful voice than a woman. But when women get together and speak in a unified way, when they get together and demand something, right, that they all want, that is a force of nature. That is iconic. That is something that changes history. That is something that changes politics. It's something that changes everything when women actually get together and speak in one voice for some collective goal, whatever it may be. It might be prohibition of alcohol, it might be abolition of slavery, it might be we want to be able to wear a multicolored dress again now that the war is over. It might be anything like that. It might be women in frickin' Saudi Arabia who are protesting, who were protesting a year or two ago that to get the government to pressure men to take more wives, right? That these men are allowed to take 4 wives and the government should pressure them to do it. Kid you not. Kid you not. A bunch of women in burqas holding up their 4 fingers.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because
they'd rather share a well-off man, a well-situated man, than be stuck marrying one who lives in the fucking gutter.
So please stop telling me that polygamy is fucking misogynist. Polygamy is misogynistic when fucking women want it. Apparently a lot more than men do. Men don't even want to get married to one woman. They only do because they're obliged to by the fucking state, by the women getting together and wanting a thing and saying so. Same fucking goes in the Middle East, apparently.
They're obliged to if they want to get sex in those cultures. In those cultures, men cannot get sex with a woman without getting married, right?
Okay, can I just interject here? I do not understand that mindset. I wouldn't want to share my husband.
You know,
fuck, I guess.
I can understand the mindset of like, you know, there is something to the idea that a man with 2 or 3 wives can love all of those women with pair bonds. He can pair bond with all of them, right? They can pair bond with him. They can all work together as a team. They can all be a cohesive family unit, help each other out, right? All of those things. There is this sort of that does lie within the realm of possibility, and I can see why women raised in a culture where that is the norm would not see that as something awful.
Well, but here's the thing: you have to look at the fallout for men. I mean, you have a communities that have that allow rich or high status men to have multiple women. What do you do with the other men, the boys of the generation? They end up being male prostitutes, getting their asses fucked by senators in fucking cities. You know, like that's the fallout. Like the fallout of all of that is the dancing boys.
Yes.
And the lost generations of Mormon boys who were thrown out in the desert to go die. Like,
yes.
That's grotesque. And not to mention a society that constantly is losing a good portion of their genetic viability. This is something that's happening with Mormon communities in the States now that practice polygamy. Not all Mormon communities do this, but the ones that do. They are finding greater and greater instances of extremely rare genetic disorders. And their IQs are dropping.
Yes.
This is not something that is sustainable. It might be sustainable in Saudi Arabia because they have a much bigger population base. But it's like this over time the same problem is going to happen.
Well, but the issue is, right? The issue is that polygamy as a practice has tended during history to occur as sort of an acceptable practice in cultures where lots of young men were lost to war. Lots of young men were lost to occupational hazard, I guess you would call it, just like the dangers and the vagaries of life, right? And therefore, if you did not engage in polygyny, right, polygamy with one man and multiple female partners, there would be women who would be left unpartnered. And they even had an issue, I think it was was the Napoleonic Wars, in Britain, where they had a phenomenon called surplus women. There were so many men killed during that period of time in warfare that they were trying to change the laws to make it so that a man could marry the widow of his brother, which was illegal at that time, right? But essentially they had so many unmarried women, so many spinsters, and so many widows, and they wanted to increase the options for these women to be able to marry again, even if it meant marrying your dead husband's brother, because then you stay within the family and all of this other stuff, right? They had to do something with all of these surplus women. And they were not willing to consider polygamy. They were not willing to consider that, but they were willing to bend marriage laws and open up new venues of women being able to partner up in marriage with people they otherwise would have been barred legally from doing, in order to solve this huge problem, right? So, I mean, you have to look at the context in which polygynous societies tend to arise. Are societies in which young men die, they drop like flies, right? And you have, and these are not societies where you have a welfare state or you have, social assistance, any kind of social safety net for women. These are societies in which young men die, they drop like flies, and young women are left with no option for marriage whatsoever unless the men who are left are able to take more than one wife. So, I mean, there is fallout for those young men when the broader context of that society changes, when there aren't so many young men dropping like flies, when you're not in a period of war, when you don't have this disparity in population, right? There is fallout. There are leftover men. There are surplus men who have no hope of ever marrying, who have no hope of ever having sex or having legally or having children, right?
And what do we do with them? We send them to Germany.
Yeah, well, but I mean, but you sort of have to look at it as this sort of cyclical thing where you essentially have polygyny arising because of a disparity in the population between men and women.
Or in case of Saudi Arabia, you just have a bunch of greedy women.
Well, you do, but that's not the context in which polygyny arose in that culture. Polygyny arose in that culture in a completely different context. It arose in the context of, our men go out on horseback or on camel and die, right? And the women are left at home much more numerous than the men, right? So that's where the tradition began. Now, the fallout from the tradition now is that you have leftover men. You have leftover men who have no prospects. But that wasn't necessarily the case when that tradition arose.
Okay, I wonder what's going on in Sumer, because apparently there was a tradition where a wealthy woman would take more than one husband.
Well, that's like the Mosuo, right? You know.
Well, Sumer was pretty fucking. They did pretty well. It ended up being as a custom being ended, probably for the same reason why you're saying that polygamy happened. That ended in conjunction with rules or laws that protected widows and children. So I'm assuming not children, but just widows. And these laws came in that protected widows and prevented rich women from taking more than one husband. Because I'm guessing that what was happening is that some guys were like, you know what, I could social climb with this, or I could marry a poor woman and give her a living.
Yeah, no, I think that's probably right. I think that essentially it was both traditions. The polygynous tradition was essentially established initially to ensure that all women had providers and protectors, and the polyandrous tradition would have been ended for the exact same reason.
Yeah. But anyway, I'm just wondering what was happening in Sumer. Sumer is nothing to sneeze at. It's not like a small, insignificant culture, like a little pissy matriarchy in the scrub.
Well, I do want to also stress that even in cultures that allow polygamy, the majority of pairings, by far, in those cultures are monogamous ones. So even in Saudi Arabia, the majority of marriages are monogamous marriages. In Iran, the majority of marriages are monogamous marriages. There are very few people who engage in, which is probably why those women in Saudi Arabia were trying to pressure the government to pressure men to take more wives, is because the majority of men in Saudi Arabia are monogamous.
Yeah. Well, and here's the other thing. Why is it that in a culture, in a Muslim culture, women are pressuring the government to treat men as a resource for them?
Well, because Muslim cultures are not what the West has portrayed them as.
Yeah, I would suggest so. And you know, it's like if you it's an interesting conundrum, because if you say, well, you know, Muslim cultures are not necessarily worse for women than they are for men, but they're sort of bad for both. Everybody's like, you're pro-Islam. Okay, no, I want to get into that.
I know, it's true, it's absolutely true. You described it. You said once, you know, okay, so somebody's telling you, oh, this culture punches women in the face. And then you come back and say, well, that culture punches both men and women in the face, and then they come back and say, you know, that you're a misogynist and that you're pro that culture.
No, literally, I have just doubled the number of people that this culture punches in the face, and you're calling me pro this culture.
Yeah.
How does that fucking work? Okay, all right. Let's move on.
It's because we measure the quality of a culture by how it treats its women, and how much better
I've got an idea. I've got an idea. If we make polygamy like legal, like unlimited legal, like any amount of women and any amount of men could get married, like 2 men and 3 women, or 5 women and 12 men. It's only a matter of time before we figure out that everyone in the country can get married to everyone else in the country, and then we'll all get the tax breaks we deserve. even the MGTOWs.
And and none of us will be having regular sex.
Hooray!
Oh, let's all marry each other. Hey, maybe we could do like a whole societies marrying each other at that point. Like I don't
global marriage.
Like in the Futurama.
It'll be like the new world order.
Yeah, exactly. We'll all be
gets married to a different planet.
No. The whole planet gets married to like a sentient like a super being from another universe, that basically had sex with all of the beings in our universe. Yes. I don't. Yeah, you have to watch it.
Okay, don't stop reading Lovecraft. Oh my god.
No, I'm not. That's not Lovecraft.
It's Futurama.
It's Futurama. Okay, let's just. I sense.
All right.
That we need banana.
My voice.
Okay, just a sec. I'm gonna put it back a little. Yes, glowy raincoat woman.
I've used my voice to talk about female empowerment.
You've used your voice to talk about female empowerment. You know what I found interesting is I was and Mike may have watched the video that I responded to because I sent my response to him. A woman, honest to God, used the term careful, as in my experience on YouTube has been careful. Like,
oh yeah, was it Jacqueline Glenn?
I have no idea. I don't do names, but I'm like listening to this. I'm like, that's not the how did you just take a word that describes an action and turn it into a word that describes a reaction? Like that's really like, and this is it relates to what she just said. Empowering women. That is, empowerment doesn't describe an action that one takes. It describes something done to one. So it's its own opposite. The word empowerment is its own fucking opposite. Because you're saying, I'm empowering someone. Well, how do you give someone power that, like, if you're giving it to them, you're the one with power. So how does anyone become empowered unless it's not an action word? It's an experience, right? I felt that the experience was empowering, right?
Yeah.
Well, that means that you have received something from someone. How is that powerful?
Well, people empower their children to some degree, but it's their job. It's once you're all adults, it's no one else's job to empower anyone else. I mean, that's how that works, isn't it?
Yeah, but how is it that it's by its very nature, it's treating empowerment as something external, or agency as something external to oneself, which is by its very definition.
It's treating it as like a commodity, right? Like it's like the idea that the state can grant rights. No, the state can only withhold rights. A right is sort of the entitlement to be able to do a certain thing, or the entitlement to have other people do or not do a certain thing, right? The state cannot grant those rights. It can only take them away.
You know what? This is. We may be going into the reeds with this one.
Okay.
I use my voice to inspire others.
I use my voice to inspire others. Like, okay, fair enough. It's good. Good on you.
I use my voice to empower.
No, you don't. You don't use your voice to empower. Do you? I mean,
I think it means she uses her voice to make people feel better about themselves.
Is that empowerment? Is just feeling better about yourself?
No. But I think that's probably what she means by it.
Okay.
Use my voice to come out.
Well, Sam, you use your voice to come out of what? Are you a lesbian?
No idea.
No, I mean, not that there's any problem with that, but is that what you're referring to? You're using your voice to come out of what?
I don't know, the box of expectations. Who knows?
Yeah, but this is well. Here's the problem. Like, none of this stuff. There's no point being made. There's nothing actionable. There's not actionable, but there's no action that's being directed, or there's no. Where's the fucking verbs? Like, what's being done? What's the plan?
It's just a motivational piece, really. It's like a coach talking to a sports team or something. Except no one knows what game they're playing or what the rules are.
Or what the goal, like, how do you make a goal? It's a coach talking to a sports team, but there's no fucking field, there's no oppositional, well, no, I guess there is an oppositional
team. There's no playbook.
There's men, there's no playbook, there's no fucking goal, there's nothing, like, you just, I guess the purpose is just to feel good.
Yeah.
Okay. You own your voice.
Donna da sua voz.
You. Okay, please stop using the word you.
own your voice.
You own your voice.
Oye, ¿y cómo es que tú usas tu voz para...
Listen, how are you using your voice to change the world? Does everybody have to change the world?
You know, I would hope not.
Yeah.
Well, apparently YouTube doesn't actually achieve anything, let alone activism. It's just fucking YouTube. So you're all wasting your time, ladies. You can't change the world with a YouTube channel. Everyone knows that.
But it's like, how can people just sort of exist in the world? Is that acceptable behavior?
No. No, it's not. And also, this girl looks uncannily similar to Emma Watson.
Yeah. I just don't, like, is it acceptable to just not do anything in the world? Like, just not, like...
Just be yourself, like my son and my daughter, my older two. They're just...
Why is it necessary to change the world? I mean, I have a desire to do that, but I don't see why everybody has to.
Yeah.
cambiar el mundo?
How are you going to use your voice for change? I'm going to try to challenge the idea that women are defined by being victims. I don't see how enforcing that idea changes a damn thing. But maybe I'm missing something in all of this.
You know what's really interesting about this logo?
What?
Do you see any blue?
Well, there's a little bit of blue on the edge.
There's...
It goes indigo on the NRE thing.
Indigo. Indigo on the R and the E. There's just, but the N goes directly from fuchsia or magenta to green.
Huh.
Yeah, there's no blue here. None.
So what's I think you're making a point.
Well, I mean, blue is the male color, right? Blue is the stereotypical culturally male color.
And corporate color too, I suppose.
This has like orange and peach and pink, magenta, fuchsia, purple. It has indigo, right? It doesn't have any blue. It has green. No blue.
No blue.
I think that might be random. They
Yeah,
had to
it
pick
might be random. I just thought it was interesting.
Yeah, it probably is random. I doubt they put that much thought. Well, maybe they did, though. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe that's the one point in the video where they put any thought into the actual message.
Yeah, you're right. This is it.
Maybe, who knows, eh? Maybe.
Go out and defeat the blue. Okay, is this all the rest of this? No, this is nothing. Okay. Oh, and it is the YouTube channel thing.
It is.
Okay, I'm gonna return this to the usual businesses.
YouTube Spotlight. That's like YouTube Oval Office.
Huh.
Yep. That's like the Democratic National Convention. That's like being given the mic at the UN. That's, yeah. So women so oppressed.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was more like a feel-good thing, like
Oh, it was so lacking any substance. It was like so hard to actually find anything that we could pick apart.
Yeah, or even get really pissed at, because it's like, it's just, this is a thing. It's like almost every other corporate mission statement. It has absolutely no fucking substance whatsoever. There's no plan to it. There's no organization. There's no element of anything. There's no bullet points. There's not really many verbs. It seems to only be about feeling good. Let's feel good for 2 minutes.
No, it was like, women, you can do shit for 2 minutes.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I know.
Like, that's a fucking, like, I needed to be told that.
Yeah, I know.
No, you needed to be told that. Like, what women need to be told that they can do shit? Okay, I'm gonna find something to be offended about that. Why do I need to be told that I can do shit before I can do shit? I just do the shit. The shit is done.
You know what drives me crazy is like my grandmother, you know, who grew up in poverty in the heyday of patriarchy. she would not have had any time or patience for this bullshit. She'd have been like, why are you wasting 2 minutes of my time? I have things to do.
Yeah. I mean, and, like, it's even hard to rage on it because it's just so fucking vague. It's like,
I think it's appeasement, isn't it? It's someone's told them, hey, you need to motivate women. Well, you prove that YouTube doesn't hate women because you got a lot of dirty, horrible, misogynistic people here. So appease us with an offering to the female gods. Doesn't have to have any substance to it. Just make it positive about women and stuff.
It's kind of like they pretended to reach into like an actual human body, and then they like switched the heart for like a goat's heart and threw it down the temple steps. It's like they really did need to give an offering, but this offering is not actually anything. It's nothing. It's empty.
Yeah, and how are we supposed to, like, here's the thing. Here's what I find remarkable. We have a whole bunch of people, like really, really big organizations, basically doing the same thing over again. They're not going to change the world. Feminists aren't going to change the world. YouTube isn't going to change the world because they're not doing anything that is there's no change involved in what they're doing. Like, they're doing exactly the same thing except more of it. That's not going to change anything. So, I mean, it's not radical, the idea that women are victims because they're women. It's not. It's and asserting that, no matter, you can increase the amount of people who are asserting that or the volume of that message, but it's not going to change anything because there's no inconsistency between it and the usual expectations of women or men. So it's like, this is why I don't get I probably, like, sometimes I feel intimidated about the potential of us being able to change anything. But then I realize that we're the only ones who are actually doing anything that's different. It's not like anybody else is going to change anything because they're not doing anything different. They're just doing variations of the same thing.
Yeah.
And that's not going to change. I'm sorry, it's just not going to change anything. And furthermore, and I think we're getting close to the other part of the conversation we were going to have today. So if you guys want to jump in and talk about that topic, that's fine. But I can continue to just enjoy the sound of my own voice. If you want.
I'm really bitchy today, so.
You've been more quiet than anything.
Yeah, no. When I'm actually feeling bitchy, I talk less.
Oh, that's interesting.
So, yeah.
Okay. Well, all right. Why don't I so I'm going to read in a letter that I received, I believe, very, very early this morning. It's in regards to the conversation that Mike had with Sargon last evening-ish. I would believe it was when it would have had happened. Or afternoon for me, but evening for Mike.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so now that we have correctly, like, contextualized the time at which this conversation occurred, essentially, it was a conversation about abandoning the term men's rights activist. And in response to that conversation, I believe that Sargon advocated the position, please correct me if I'm wrong, that we should stop calling ourselves men's rights activists.
I got him down to MRA. After we went around the loop a couple of times, I got him to say, no, you can call yourself a men's rights advocate, just not an MRA. Which at that point I thought, okay, I don't know where we are now, Sargon. I don't know what's happening. Okay,
well, I mean, I usually like to write it out because nobody knows what the fuck you're talking about with MRA. That I can understand that as a principle of clarity, not really policy or principle. A principle of clarity, yeah, but a principle or a principle, I'm not so sure that it really matters. But anyway, so this letter, I believe, was sent to me in regards to that conversation because it references it rather heavily. And so I will read it now. It's from The Real 10 Men L. The L might be accidental, I don't know. After watching the 3-hour voice-gasm stream from Nicholas Goroff and hearing the retarded rigidity of one Mike, aka Dr. Rantzerker, on the non-issue of...
I'm the
yes.
retarded rigid one.
Yes. On the non-issue of the labels humanist and MRA, as opposed to MRA or MRA, hopefully you see the points that you have no idea.
The non-issue. The fucking not. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, I know. We'll get to that. You will get your day in the sun, sir. All of you will, in a way. Okay. Hopefully you will see the point, since you have no idea which is which, and that is the whole effing point. I have motivation for change. Actually, you know what? I will address this right now. The reasons why I call myself a men's rights advocate rather than men's rights activist is not because I'm trying to appease feminists. It's because I want to be accurate and to honor the people who are going out in the real world and building stuff in the real world. I believe that we're also doing that to a more of a vaporware degree, but I want to reserve activists for people who are going out and actually doing activism in the real world. Like, we are doing advocacy, and to a certain extent when we go out to speak, we're also doing activism. But for the most part, we do advocacy. I don't use the term men's rights advocate because I'm afraid of feminists. I use it because I want to be respectful to the people who are boots on the ground, getting out there and, you know, doing activist stuff. So it has nothing to do with fear of feminists. So let me go back, because I said Mike did not talk and then I did. And hearing the retarded rigidity of one Mike, aka Dr. Rantzerker, on the non-issue of the labels humanist and MRA, I have motivation for change. I see a possibility for change. Change for social justice, change for men's issues, change for equality, change for feminism, change for the UN to stop being retarded. Change for the better. If you were to change your term from MRA in any form, militaristic, right-wing anarchist is a possible substitute, to humanist, humanitarian, egalitarian, or equalitarian, or whatever it ends up being. Personally, I suggest humanist. I shall subscribe, join, figure out how to give you money through Patreon, or at least jam money through my screen. Make the thing an actual thing. And literally every person who believes in equality on the planet, the whole point of the new label, will be with you on solving men's issues.
Okay, first of all...
No.
Let Karen go. Let go. I want to hear this.
They will not be with us on solving men's issues just because we call ourselves humanists. What the fuck kind of alternate universe are you living in? Do you even understand the underlying problem? The underlying problem being the gender empathy gap? That is our primary problem. It is not what we call ourselves. It is not whether we say we're men's rights advocates, men's rights activists, humanists, egalitarians, or equalitarians. It is because we are actually highlighting problems that are unique to men, that are commonly suffered by men, and nobody feels any fucking compassion for men. That is the underlying fucking problem. And you, with your stupid semantic fucking argument, oh, I won't give you my money till you call yourselves what I think you should call yourselves. Yeah, you're just part of the fucking problem. You're just an example of what we're dealing with. If you actually cared about men, you wouldn't fucking worry about what we call ourselves. You fucking dickweed.
Holy shit. I was actually a little bit more cordial in my response to him.
Yeah, but, well, you know what? I've fucking had enough of this shit.
All right, so well, the problem is, let me finish the letter. This isn't what Sargon stated, by the way. So this is completely separate from the stream between Sargon and Mike. This is completely separate. This is somebody who sent me a letter, and I'll go back a bit and then continue. If you were to change your term from men's rights activist, I shall subscribe, join, figure out how to give you money through Patreon, or at least jam money through my screen.
Keep your fucking money, asshole.
Wow, that's. I'm not actually. I'm excited that you're excited. Make the thing an actual thing, and literally every person who believes on equality in the planet, the whole point of the new label, will be with you on solving men's issues. Okay, I want to put something in here. The problem isn't that we aren't advocating for equality. The problem is also that people who think they're advocating for equality are convinced that women need to be served first because they're the ones who are oppressed. So we could get every advocate for equality helping us out whenever we talk about women's issues, but when we talk about men's issues, they would just fucking scarper. So how do we get any further on that? All right, so I'm going to continue. Think of it as a weapon against bigotry. Right now you are using a stick. This large term gives you a tree to start swinging with a lot of other people swinging the same tree for a whole multitude of reasons, a whole multitude of issues. 1 point and 1 question. Feminists ask, are you against women? No, then you are a feminist. Ask yourself, are you against equal rights? Then you are an egalitarian. Anyone who says no is going to be seen as crazy. Anyone who says yes is going to have a hard argument against the equal rights you're trying to fight for. Too long don't read. Take part in Sargon's humanism movement label thing and I will pledge money. P.S. I have a fair bit of disposable income and don't donate to anything of yet. So it could be a decent chunk of monies. Oh my.
Can you say identity politics? This is precisely what this is. I'm glad you called it a non-issue, friend. I completely agree. So when some cunt comes along and says, hey, you need to stop calling yourself that label, and I say, oh, thank you for your opinion, I disagree, I'm going to keep doing that, you do not get to tell me that I'm obsessed with a fucking non-issue. Because I'm rejecting your fucking non-issue with what we call ourselves. And by the way, I don't know why you think humanist and MRA are mutually exclusive. Why the fuck do you think you can change from men's rights advocate to humanist? One is a component of the other. For fuck's sake, why do you think men's rights is incompatible with humanism? Because this is what the suggestion is, that we should call ourselves humanists instead of men's rights advocates, as though you can't possibly be both. Like everyone, yeah, you could be a fucking women's rights advocate and a humanist at the same time, but this is the label we don't like. And even if we all do that, like call ourselves humanists and include the arguments of men's rights, when we bring up those arguments, when we say things like men should have equal access to their children and such, like Alison said, someone's going to come along and say, what, are you a men's rights advocate? And then you're going to say, no, of course I'm not a men's rights advocate. And they'll say, well, you just advocate for men's rights. Well, that doesn't mean I'm a men's rights advocate. Yeah, so well, shut up then. Don't say that thing ever again. I was, okay, sorry, yeah, I won't mention men's rights. That's what's going to happen. They're going to fucking use this. Even if no one in the world is calling themselves a men's rights advocate, they're still going to. That's going to give them extra ammunition to use that word every time you try to bring up men's rights.
No.
Yeah.
The whole thing is, you know, when someone like Lady Gaga or someone
because they're making you lie in that scenario when they say, "What, are you a men's rights advocate?" and you say, "No, I'm not." You're lying.
Yes.
They're being completely honest there. You're the one who's lying, and they're making you tell that fucking lie over and over again. No wonder it's rotting your brain to the point where you're doing exactly what the fucking games press did to gamers a year and a half ago. Gamers are over. Gamers are dead. Stop using the label. It's incompatible with my unified theory of humanism. Yeah? Well, now you're fucking doing it. MRAs are dead. MRAs are over. Stop using the label as incompatible with my unified theory of humanism. That's how long it took.
It's not even...
For you to decide that you'd like to be in that role now. Yeah, it is fun, isn't it? It's fun being the fucking games press.
It's not even a unified theory of humanism, because if it was, right, the label MRA would not be an expletive. It would not be a pejorative, right? The label MRA, if everybody had humanist values, right? If everybody was a humanist, if all of the humanists were actually humanists, right? There would be nothing fucking wrong with the label MRA.
All right, I'm going to step in here, and I'm going to reiterate my point that I made earlier. I am a person who is advocating for men's rights. I would call myself a men's rights activist if I was doing work in the real world, activist work in the real world. At the moment, I'm doing advocacy work. Someone comes and says, "You're a men's rights advocate." That person has added nothing to the conversation. No additional information has been exchanged. By saying, I'm doing men's rights advocacy, and someone telling me I'm a men's rights activist, nothing. This is when this guy says labels don't matter, he's exactly right. All it is correctly identifying the action that I am taking. That I do advocate for these issues. That's it. There is no additional information being exchanged when someone says, you're a men's rights activist or advocate. Thank you, Captain Obvious. Thank you for adding absolutely nothing to the discussion. The label is totally meaningless, guys. And it's not that I don't want to stop being labeled. It's because I don't want to stop doing men's rights advocacy. And I don't want to have to stop doing men's rights advocacy to say, no, I'm not a men's rights advocate, even though I'm doing exactly the thing that you're saying that I'm doing by calling me a men's rights advocate. I don't want to have to stop and say, no, wait, I'm not actually that. I'm actually this. I'm not actually exactly the thing that I'm doing right now. It's a one-to-one correspondence. It's transparent. It is honest. It has no additional information. There's nothing being hidden in there. Like when someone says, I do feminism, what the hell does that mean? You can't actually measure it against something. That's why it can be anything and nothing at the same time.
There are a million feminisms. There are a million feminisms.
There is only one men's rights advocacy. That is seeing men in a situation where they are not getting corresponding care, consideration, resources as men and as women, and saying, hey, we need to deal with that. We need to pay attention to how society treats men. That is advocacy. It's one-to-one correspondence. There's nothing hidden there. I don't have to believe that some sort of pink invisible demons control the whole fucking world and turn it into a fucking matriarchy to do men's rights advocacy. There is nothing. It's totally one-to-one, totally transparent, totally honest to what it is. It is what it says. And
that's why the trick works. That's why the fucking trick works, where they can say, "What are you, a men's rights advocate?" Because they are telling the truth, and like I said, they're making you lie.
It's like, and the proper answer to that is yes. I am a men's rights advocate because I am advocating men's rights. Just like if you saw me running, I would be a runner. Now, I might not be the kind of person who buys spandex and expensive toe boots to run, but if I'm engaging in the action of running, I am a runner. That's how it works. Okay? And it doesn't involve any ideology. It doesn't involve extra baggage. It just is what it says. So when someone comes to me and says, oh, you're a men's rights advocate, I say, yes, thank you. Very obvious. Can we move on?
Yeah.
And that's it.
The whole problem here, right, is the irony of misogyny, right? The irony of systemic misogyny, that the reason we can be convinced that society is systemically misogynist is because it is the opposite of that. Because society grossly favors women, women's well-being, women's safety, women's health, right? Women's happiness, women's fulfillment and satisfaction, right? The whole reason we can be convinced that we are misogynists is because we are not. And the whole reason why MRA as a label is looked down on is because society does not have compassion for men, does not consider men to be deserving of equality in certain areas, does not consider men to be worthy of society's concern, right? Does not consider any of those things to be valid. Those are the things that we are trying to fight against. And the whole reason why anybody like Sargon, and I don't blame him for this, I don't fucking hold it against him, does not want to be associated with the label MRA is because it is attached to a whole host of negative shit, right, that can only be piled on the label because of the prevailing attitudes that contribute to the problems that MRAs are trying to solve.
Okay, someone Chaos Theory says, by that same token, there's nothing wrong with calling oneself a feminist either.
Yeah, no. There's nothing wrong with calling yourself a feminist.
I have never told anyone to drop their label. Not a MGTOW, not a feminist, not fucking anyone. And I've never told anyone that they should be a men's rights advocate, or never mind that they are already. I've never said you are a men's rights advocate. I've been very fucking careful not to fucking play the identity politics game, and then someone comes along and says, "Hey, you should drop that label." Just fuck all of you completely.
I have only ever recommended to a few people who say, you know, when I tell
okay, can I actually address this?
Just give me a second. When I tell people I'm a feminist, they get upset. They ascribe all of these attitudes to me that I don't actually hold, and I have told them, well, maybe you could consider calling yourself something else because the label's been poisoned beyond redemption, right? That is my advice to you. Call yourself egalitarian, right?
There is something different here that I just want to point out. The label of feminism is poisoned beyond all recognition by the actions of the people in it.
Yes.
And they have done those actions with a very sympathetic press. The label of Gamergate and men's rights activist have not been poisoned by the actions of the people in it. Yes, there are bad apples. But they have been poisoned by a very unsympathetic press that paints them as misogynists, harassers,
terrorists,
and terrorists, all of which is not true. So that's what's tainted it. It has, and I'm going to get into the etymology of feminism, but I want to address Chaos Theory's statement. By that same token, there's nothing wrong with calling oneself a feminist either. Okay, what is the act of feminist? What is the action that feminism is? If it is egalitarianism, then why don't they call themselves egalitarian activists? When I talk about men's rights advocacy being transparent and one-to-one, I do men's rights advocacy. People say, oh, you're a men's rights advocate? I say, yes. So what? You've added nothing to the conversation. But if you were to, if you unpack feminism, it doesn't describe an action. It describes a belief system. Otherwise, they would call themselves equalitarian or egalitarian activists, or feminists.
Rights activists.
There is an opaqueness to the term feminist. It doesn't describe an action. It describes a whole hell of a lot more. And I'm going to explain what it describes. If you look at the history of the etymology of feminism, it was coined by Charles Fourier. He wasn't actually quite feminist as we would describe a feminist now, but he established the fundamental principle of feminism, and when I tell you what it is, you will see that this fundamental principle underlies all feminist activism, regardless of what they say about equality. What Charles Fourier said was feminism, or féminisme, I think he was French, so he had some sort of other pronunciation, is basically the act of measuring society by how it treats women. That is the essence of feminism, is measuring society by how it treats women, not how it treats men, how it treats women.
Not how it treats women relative to how it treats men.
No.
Just how it treats women.
Just how it treats women. And now everything makes sense.
Doesn't it, though? It's the most amazing thing. It is, like, literally you have a term, feminism, right? That is not just women's rights advocacy, right? Look at Ayaan Hirsi Ali, right? And how she's been no-platformed by feminists because she's not feminist enough, or she's anti-feminist in her thinking, right? Even though she has a solid track record of advocating for the equal rights of women, right? And in some cases, the superior rights of women. She has advocated for an end to forced marriages for women, but I don't know whether she's ever considered that men also can be forced into marriage by their parents. So yeah, I don't know whether she's ever considered that, you know, as something that her culture engages her, that her culture of birth has engaged in. But She has a solid track record of women's rights advocacy, and she is not feminist enough to be given an honorary award from Brandeis University because, an honorary degree, because, she, I don't know, she says bad things about Muslims and she isn't politically correct enough and blah, 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 right? Yeah, no. Feminism has a whole fucking pile of baggage attached to it. Anybody who advocates for the rights of women, and I advocate for the rights of women, I don't advocate for them at the moment because women have better than equal rights to men in our society at the moment. But if they didn't, I would be right there. I would be right there advocating for the rights of my daughter to have equal rights to her brothers. Right? There is, it is, and the whole reason why we can be convinced that being an MRA is some kind of horrible thing, right, is the exact same reason why we can be convinced that society is steeped in misogyny when the exact opposite is the case. The exact fucking opposite is the case.
Yeah. Okay, Echo. All right. I wanted to address something that was said in chat. And I don't know if this is what Sargon actually said, so don't. And we're not actually quoting Sargon when we're talking here. We're quoting the letter that we received. Viper Bane says, late to the chat, but what Sargon of Akkad proved to Mike was that he knows exactly why the men's rights activists get their arse. Exactly why men's rights activists gets their arse handed to them up and down all over the world. The Honey Badgers and Mike have showed that they would rather spend 99% of their energy on propping up the men's rights activist title, and only 1% on actual men's issues. Sargon said, ignore the MRA word, you don't need it in its own 100% by the feminists. Okay. First of all, I engage in men's rights advocacy, someone calls me a men's rights advocate, and then I distract from the issue by defending myself by saying, no, I'm this other thing. Even though you've seen me engage in men's rights advocacy, I am now going to show that you can manipulate me into not engaging in it by challenging me on what you're calling me. I don't give a shit what you call me. I will engage in men's rights activism. Period. You can call me whatever you fucking well want. And I will say, yeah, sure, whatever. Moving on. It doesn't fucking matter.
On top of that, how do you explain the women, the celebrity women who have said, right, oh, no, I don't consider myself a feminist. I believe in equality and I don't hate men. Right? And I don't buy into all of that stuff. Right? And they get brutalized for not saying they're a feminist. They get brutalized by feminists. Often they get brutalized into submission. They end up coming out like Taylor Swift did and a couple of others did and saying, oh yeah, no, now that I think about it, feminism is just the dictionary definition, and in order to maintain my good standing amongst the public and not get like fucking bullied anymore, yeah, okay, I'm a feminist. Yeah, no, how do you explain that? How do you explain people who claim that they're not feminists but they're egalitarians and feminists will fucking bully them? Right? That there are people like Sargon who have said, I'm not an MRA, I'm not a feminist, I'm an egalitarian, right? And who's he getting crap from? He's not getting crap from MRAs. He's like, the only crap he's getting from MRAs is when he suggests that MRAs stop using the label MRA, right? That's a discussion, right? That's not a bunch of MRAs descending on him in a freaking horde, a bullying horde, right? saying, you refuse to call yourself an MRA, you're a bad person and you should feel bad. No, that's not what that is. That was Mike saying, okay, you choose to call yourself this thing, I choose to call myself this thing. Here are my reasons. And, you know, I can understand the reasons that you're saying, why you don't call yourself that and why you think I should not call myself it, but I will continue to call myself it. This is not Mike trying to impose the label on Sargon, right? But what happens? What happens when people tell feminists, oh, yeah, I believe in equality, that's why I'm an egalitarian and not a feminist, and then feminists fucking, you know, jump on them and rip their fucking throats out? Like, how are we even having this fucking discussion, right, about how it's somehow we're like, we're so attached to the label MRA that we're going to impose it on people? No, the only people imposing the label on MRA on people, the label MRA on people who do not take it on, right, are feminists, and the only people imposing the label feminist on people who do not take that on are also feminists.
Yeah.
You're just telling us to surrender. That's all. You're telling us to surrender to the fucking identity politics. I'm sorry, we're not going to. I don't see that as a viable tactic. I'm sorry.
I'm just going to get in here and address the point that was brought up. 99% of our energy on propping up the men's rights activist title and only 1% on actual issues. This is the first fucking episode we've had on this. Like, seriously, how many times have we talked about being a men's rights activist? I mean, we're not even doing it on the main show, where we usually cover the problems of men. Like, this is the Rantzerker. It's for fucking freeballing. Like, okay, correct me if I'm wrong, Karen. Is this not the first actual show that we've had on talking about men's rights, the actual title?
I think it is the only show on Honey Badger. I actually did a video on my channel a few years ago when the term MHRA became a thing, and why I wouldn't be choosing to use that for myself, but I didn't have a problem with anybody.
All right, I got something interesting, because we're sort of having like a one-sided conversation with Viperbane. All right, Viperbane, where is this promised land where feminists do not own every inch of the land? Because what we've created is as a name, and Mike might get into this. Mike might jump on what I'm saying here. We have created a name that is a one-to-one correspondence to what we do. Like, there's nothing hidden in it. We are men's rights advocates, and we advocate for men's rights. One-to-one correspondence.
And we didn't even create the name. We discovered it. It had been there all along. It just had a towel. It just had a throw rug just tossed over it so no one could see it. And then we took off the throw rug and said, oh, what's this verb here? Oh, it's men's rights advocacy. Shit, that's a thing that exists. That's a thing that I'm doing right now. That's the actual English phrase for the thing I'm doing. I guess it applies. It's not necessarily my identity, but I'm not going to lie that it's the thing I'm doing. And I don't consider it a magic trick to turn that verb into a noun. I don't see how it changes from an ordinary verb to this fucking incantation when it's a noun.
Didn't invent men's rights advocate. The English language invented it. Okay, so this guy's bringing up some interesting stuff, and it's contrary to what we're doing, so it's interesting to me. So Vision Storm says, radical, it's basic strategy. Feminists own the MRA label 100%. They control all aspects of how it appears in society and media. This is a lost hill. There are better and more successful battles to be fought elsewhere, preferably where feminists do not own every inch of the land. Using the energy HB just used to go off on Sargon's idea should have been used anywhere else. First of all, we're not going off on Sargon's idea. We're going off on a letter sent to us by someone else. But no, they love the label and the war they will never win. The way to defeat feminists use MRA is to reclaim the term back from them, not to capitulate to their crap and avoid the term altogether. Oh wait, no, that's Vision Storm, who's contra to Viperbane. I just got an argument. All right, the fact that you can advocate for men's rights and be called a men's rights activist or advocate, and then people will back away from that term and spend energy arguing with the person that they are not actually, should not be labeled what they are doing. That is the point. That is the win. That is the strategy that they're using. The correct response is to say, you have added no information to this conversation, Captain Obvious. Let us continue the discussion of the issues.
Yeah,
You know
all you've done is turn a verb into a noun. That doesn't impress me. That hasn't shut me down.
And
We're carrying on.
The whole idea that it's the label that's the problem. It's not. It's the action that's the problem. That is what people, particularly feminists, are objecting to, is the action itself. It is not the label. And the fact that the label itself is descriptive of the action is why it is able to be turned into a pejorative, right? Is that the action is what is disapproved of. It is not the name, the label, right? No, that's not what's disapproved of. It is the action that is disapproved of, because we are steeped in a narrative where women are seen as beneath men in every single situation, victims of men in every single situation, in every conceivable circumstance, that women are suffering compared to men. And so, therefore, given that narrative, the act of advocating for men's rights, whether you call yourself an MRA or not, whether it is a situational thing like father's rights or whatever, or due process, protection of due process, things like that, the mere act of advocating for those particular things are seen as an attack on somebody. It is seen as punching down. It is seen as punching down in every conceivable circumstance. It is seen as fucking Bill Gates, right, beating up a woman who's like freaking a crack addict living homeless, right? That is essentially what the cultural narrative is. The moment that you say, well, you know, this homeless crack addict woman said something bad and actionable and criminal about Bill Gates, and now he's suing her, right? Okay. No. Like, this is how people see the advocacy for men and their rights. They see a billionaire fucking CEO of a Fortune 500 company attacking a homeless woman. That's how they see it. It is not anything to do with the label. The label is fucking, it's immaterial.
You can't, like,
the only way the label is material in any way whatsoever is to normalize the idea that men should have equal rights to women, that men have problems with their rights being violated or not having those rights in the first place, right, compared to women, and that those rights should be protected. This is the only material aspect of the label. This is the only legitimate, relevant fucking aspect of the label, is to use the label to try to inform the public that, you know, men's rights advocacy, tut, what's all this then, right? Okay, yeah, no, here's an example of where men do not have equal rights to women.
Okay. There is no space between men's rights advocate, doing men's rights advocacy and being called a men's rights. It's one-to-one. There is nothing to take offense at in terms of the label, except the action. That's it. When people say that, they are not taking offense at the label. They are taking offense at the action. And saying that men's rights, when you're a men's rights advocate, you say, yes, I do this thing, therefore it is legitimate, at least in this circumstance, to call me a men's rights advocate. You don't then have to take, it's like saying that a runner somewhere stabbed someone, so therefore all runners are murderers. It's like, this is just, since it is so it is one-to-one with the action that it describes, that there is no other room for anything else in it. There's no room for ideology. Do people get what I'm saying?
Well, one of the analogies I used in the conversation with Sargon was to explain the difference between the action and the identity is we try to paint things with a rainbow with all of the available colors, but then some people come along and say, how dare you paint things in violet? That's the bad color. We won't let you paint with that color. That's for one thing, I'm going to take a good look at violet. That doesn't mean it's my favorite color, but I think it's important that, and you can't get over this problem by renaming it purple or mauve or some shade of lilac. None of that matters. They don't hate the word we use for violet. They hate the color, the actual shade. They hate the qualia itself of that color. And probably it's possible that earlier in the 20th century, in a history that's been swept under the rug, people did get together talking about men's issues, and perhaps they did try calling themselves something like Meninist. And then that got pretty big, and a few people said to them, hey, we like what you're talking about with the men's issues, but just drop the label Meninist, because it just triggers people, And they went, okay, we'll do that. We'll rebrand ourselves. We'll just call it the Men's Society. And then people went, oh, okay, we like what you're talking about with the men's issues and such. You just need to drop the label Men's Society. It's a bit toxic sounding, you know what I mean? So they went, okay, we'll rebrand ourselves as something else. Maybe we'll be the blah-de-blah over and over, generation after generation. All they do is spend their entire time rebranding themselves and being forgotten by history. And it's happening again. In fact, we brought it all the way down to we don't even have a brand anymore. We call ourselves the Action. Like Alison said, there's no distance between the terms. It's not a brand name at all. It's a verb. And they're still doing it. They're still saying, okay, we like the way you advocate for men's rights, but could you just drop the label? We haven't done this before. We're not just completing this fucking cycle that everyone else has been doing.
It's almost like it's just like the act of saying, I advocate for men's issues, and I'm going to take a positive identity from that, because that actually indicates, especially if you're a woman, that you're a particularly compassionate individual who gets out of their own head to care about people who don't have the same genital configuration as yourself. What the fuck's wrong with that? Yeah, I'm going to take a positive identity from advocating for men's issues. I'm going to say I'm a men's rights activist, because I believe that's a positive activity in the world. It's important to bring attention to the things that we don't care about. To me, it doesn't have to be important to other people. I'm not going to insist everybody do what I do, but it's important to me, and I think that's one of the best parts about myself, is that I am capable of having compassion for people who don't look like me and caring very deeply for their problems and issues. What the fuck is wrong with that?
Lots.
Apparently. But anyway, Chaos Theory says, oh, I get it. Like, it would be better if feminists called themselves women's rights advocates. You mean, would it be better if feminists... No, it would, actually. I would say, Karen, it would be better.
No, it wouldn't. It would not. It would absolutely not, because if feminists went on to call themselves women's rights advocates, but they were still subscribing to the set of theories and hypotheses and gobbledygook and woo that feminists do, right? That would be a dishonest label. They are not advocating for women's rights. They're advocating for the adoption of a worldview, the adoption of an ideology, right? And they would be calling it something that it's not. Women's rights advocacy is the advocacy for the, the rights of women. That's what it is. Right? It has nothing to do with fucking patriarchy theory, rape culture, systemic gendered violence, fucking the Duluth model. It doesn't have anything to do with that, right? It just has to do with, women deserve the same rights, and it has to do with the dictionary definition of feminism that they always hold up, right? When they're called on their bullshit, they're like, feminism is nothing more or less than the advocacy of equal rights for women, politically, socially, and economically. Yeah, okay. If that's all it fucking was, I would have no problem with it.
Okay, let me clarify what I was saying. Those feminists who genuinely advocate for the rights of women and are willing to allow people to look at their work and look at, is this actually advocating for the rights of women? And use common sense interpretations of what these individuals, they can call themselves women's rights activists. When you call yourself a very simple term with real world, like you can make the connection to a particular action, you can say whether or not that action is occurring or not, that allows you to be transparent in what you're doing. Feminism doesn't have that transparency. Women's rights activism does. Anybody can have an opinion on whether or not somebody is actually engaging in women's rights activism, because it's right in the name. It's really difficult to have an opinion, like feminists say, it's not my obligation to educate you on feminism. They make their shit so opaque, and the only people who are allowed to have an opinion on feminists who are educated in feminism, blah, blah, blah. Fuck that. This should be transparent. It should be out in the open. It should be obvious what it is. And it should be obvious the goals, and obvious to people when those goals are attained. There you go. Women's rights activists, awesome. Men's rights activism, awesome. Feminism, fucking opaque, authoritarian bullshit that they won't even allow anybody has the right to say, oh, you guys are for equality? Well, let me look at your track record and use some common sense about your track record and make my own determination. What will they say to that? Misogynist. You need to learn what feminism is about. But it's not my responsibility to educate you. This is not. Feminism is not transparent. It is not one-to-one. It is not common sense. It is a fucking occultist ideology masquerading, having consumed like a fucking macrophage the concept of equality and using it like a bludgeon to prevent any kind of criticism. This is the problem with feminism. It's not even that it advocates for women, or allegedly does. It's because it's so fucking transparent and it doesn't allow anyone with any common sense to be a buffer on what it's doing or criticize what it's doing because of its opaque nature. Okay, that's why I think women's rights activism is better than feminism. It's a much better term. One-to-one transparency. Good. Weird occult terminology and self-referential bullshit, bad.
Yes.
Okay, so one other thing is, why aren't we having this discussion about women's rights advocacy? Like, why isn't anyone telling us? We are also, many of us, even on this panel, have defined ourselves as women's rights advocates too. How come none of you in the fucking little chat who have this problem have a problem with us defining ourselves as that? When you get back to us and explain to us why we can't call ourselves women's rights advocates, and I invite anybody who thinks that we should stop calling ourselves men's rights advocates to explain to us why we should stop calling ourselves women's rights advocates, please do. Send us an email. Why Honey Badger Radio needs to stop calling itself a women's rights advocates. Topic@badgerpod.com. Explain to us the logic. And then we will start working on the logic of why we need to stop calling ourselves men's rights activists. How about that?
Also,
there we go.
Also, letter writer, keep your fucking money. You'll be like 99% of the other men out there who keep their fucking money.
Shove your money up your fucking kidneys, dickhead.
Shall I read the letter I wrote back to him?
No, just.
No, it was actually much more polite. But again, I invite anyone who's going to try to explain to us why we should move away from calling ourselves men's rights activists to first explain to us why we need to move away from calling ourselves women's rights activists. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sure, do that first.
I think I'm sure that he'll read your more politely worded response, and he'll probably be all annoyed and feel thwarted and like, you know, he wagged his dick in our face and we didn't bite. You know, in terms of like, oh, I have all this money and I could give it to you. Yeah. Well, you know, that's not why we're in this. So fuck you, right? I'm happy to allow him to savor that response privately. And I actually I'm feeling really bitchy.
But I think it's worthwhile. Like
oh my God! Okay, read it. Oh fuck! Just read it then.
It's actually far more polite, and I should have included. Why don't you explain to me why I need to stop calling myself a women's rights activist before you explain to me why I need to stop calling myself a men's rights activist? Like seriously, this is what it all comes down to. I would invite anyone, including, can I say Sargon? I mean, if he still is holding this position, explain to me why I need to stop calling myself a women's rights activist.
Well, to actually address, to summarize sort of my approach and Sargon's approach, my approach is this is going to be a team effort of identities. It's we could all call ourselves different things, and maybe it's important that we call ourselves different things and hold different identities to different degrees of closeness. And Sargon's view is we should all call ourselves humanists, and we should all unite under that umbrella term.
Does it have to be humanist? Because Anita won the humanist award from like Oxford or something. Like, can it be? It's like fuck.
It's pretty hilarious that he said, "Well, you're putting yourself in a box by calling yourself an MRA." I'm like, Sargon, you're telling us we should all call ourselves one thing, and you're telling me I'm putting myself in a box by calling myself an MRA and a MGTOW and a Gamergator and a women's rights advocate and all these. Oh, fucking hell, dude! And you're actually proposing a unified theory of a single identity. A little bit like a few other ideologies we could name, yeah?
I actually prefer the idea that people can advocate for issues as they wish, or not advocate for issues. Like, there's probably people out here who like listen to this shit and they're like, my God, what a bunch of fucking children squabbling in a goddamn kindergarten. And in some ways I can see their point of view. Just live your fucking life. That's fine too. Why not just have a plurality of potential identities based one-to-one correspondence, completely transparent on what your interest in advocating for is? You want to advocate for men's rights, be a men's rights advocate. You want to advocate for women's rights, be a women's rights advocate. You want to advocate for Karen's dog's rights, be a Karen's dog's right advocate. Like, why does it have to all be on one somewhat less transparent umbrella term? That's my thing. That's my... And again, I would like to know why I have to stop calling myself a women's rights activist. So all those people who are like, you need to stop doing that, please tell me. What's wrong with advocating for women's rights? Don't you like women's rights? Or do you have something against them? Seriously.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna read the email.
Okay, and do it quick. Do it quick.
It's a quick email.
And I want to go.
Remember, Karen, I don't write. I'm like much more terse than yourself. So.
Good.
Hello, Mr. Tenman. The reason why I call myself a men's rights activist is simple. 4 years ago, the SPLC, that is the Southern Poverty Law Center, titled the community a hate group, then subsequently backed off on its stance, maybe sorta. In response, many men in the community expressed suicidal ideation. In an effort to prevent men from killing themselves, I took on the title men's rights activist. If society wants to shame them and throw them down a hole, then they can throw me along with them. It's the same reason why I stood up for Gamergate publicly. I opposed to the very fiber of my being the ostracization of groups with legitimate issues, and if there are any other groups the media throws under the bus who aren't obviously hate groups, although I'll take a moment now to note that the media uses Gamergate and men's rights activists as its Satan far more than the KKK and Stormfront. No one else finds that interesting. Then I will proudly bear their name as well. I'm probably never going to stop being a men's rights activist because I became one in order to protect the men and community I care about from the kind of social censure and stigmatization that kills. Until society chooses to stop vilifying men for standing up for their rights, I shall remain their sword and shield. You may keep your money, sir. Thank you for your time. Alison Tiemann, men's rights activist and Gamergator.
Excellent. Like he can literally he can fucking roll around in his money and then shove it up his ass. I really don't fucking care.
Yeah, Joe Fish says I'm a men's rights activist, so you can hate on me. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Whatever your Satan is, you can call me that. because I'm tired of watching people who are good people.
And you know how I said,
Thrown under the bus.
you know how I said maybe the answer to marriage is complete and open polygamy? Like maybe the answer to the Satan thing is for everyone to be Satan. We can't make no one Satan. They're going to make someone Satan. And the only way to do this is to go over the top. Everyone's Satan now. There's no...
Yeah. This is actually, because I proposed this just sort of in passing in, I don't know, it was a radio show maybe 2 years ago, that we should have an International Men's Rights Activist Coming Out Day every year where, where we just all say our name, say my name, say my name, right?
I am Satan.
Yeah, no, I am Karen.
Satan.
I'm an MRA. I am Mike Stevenson, and I'm an MRA. I'm Alison Tiemann, and I'm an MRA, right? And just,
I'm not afraid of your hate.
Yeah, I'm not afraid. There are so many of us out here that you can't cost us all our jobs.
Yeah. And the other thing is that
you can't destroy all of us.
Yeah. This is the thing. This is what will really change this situation. Is enough people who stand up or support those who stand up and say, I'm not afraid of your hate. I'm not afraid of what you say about me.
Or just what you did with Gamergate, remember? Remember Gamergate? When everyone told you, hey, just we like the whole ethics and journalism, just drop the label Gamergate. What did you say, guys? You said no, fuck off, and the horse you rode in on. So why have you forgotten all of that already when it's someone else's fucking label?
What I find interesting is that people were fucking with me early on, right? And they were fucking with me in ways that they fucked with Sargon recently. They've fucked with, all kinds of people who have more subscribers than me recently, right? People were fucking with me early on, and what I did in response to that, to the fraudulent DMCA claims, was I essentially put out a video saying, yeah, everybody in my life knows what I do, including my children, my parents, my boss, my dog, everyone, right? And you're not going to be able to get me fired. My boss will answer your phone call and say, well, we always knew Karen was a little weird. Don't ever call here again, right? Because she at least shows up for work, right? Like, literally, you cannot hurt me. My employment is not in danger just because you know my name and where I work, right? That like, I am unashamed. I am completely unashamed of what I do. I do it under my real name. I do it with the full knowledge of every single individual in my life who has any power to affect my life, right? Yeah, no. You're not going to be able to fucking touch me. You're not going to be able to hurt me, right? And that was the very last fucking time that anybody fucked with me in that way. That was the very last fucking time they did, right? Now, if we had an international MRA coming out day where everybody was just like, you know what? You can't fucking fuck with me, right? Okay? Because you know why? Because there's 30 or 40,000 other MRAs who've come out on this same day, and which of us are you going to pick?
Yeah. But here's the thing. This like what you said is so true. When you stop being afraid of this shit, and maybe it will have to be women first, that's when the change will start. When people tell us to get away from the label men's rights activists because it's poisoned, because all men's rights activists are seen as horrible, or men's rights advocates are seen as horrible people. You know what? I have the reverse attitude to that. Most people take on a label because they think it makes them look better. I take on a label because I want to protect the people in it, because people are making them look bad. And what I mean by that is you can't throw everyone in the hole. Eventually the hole will fill up and it will no longer be dangerous. But anyway, it's like I don't want to take on a label just because it make people see me in a positive light. I want to take on a label because I believe it'll be helping people. And taking on the labels where people have been stigmatized in them, even though they have legitimate things to say, they're good people who are rallying behind this standard, and they're being maligned because the forces, the powers that be, don't like what they have to say. Those are the labels that I am going to pick up and take on. Not because I want to look good, but because I want to do something to protect people, to do something positive for the world, which is to say, you don't get to do this. I want to do whatever I can to stop this fucking weapon that the media has, that the mainstream has, to turn people into Satan, thus silence them. That's a weapon. And if I can do anything to stop it, I will do it. So I am fucking Satan.
And I am Satan.
And I am Spartacus. Whatever happened to we choose to do these things not because they are easy, but because they are hard? When someone doesn't let you have an identity, that should really speak to you. That should say, well, why? Why don't you? If you tell me, if you try and kill rock and roll, then I'm going to make rock and roll bigger. If you try and kill gamers, then I'm going to make gamers bigger. And you're trying to kill MRAs, and you're just making us stronger. If you want to weaken us, stop fucking doing this.
But that's
just making us bigger and stronger. Thanks.
Like you're saying, and yeah, actually, the hatred does. When you're dealing with a small group that's sort of fractious, actually directing hatred at us, not that unbeneficial. When you put that energy into us, that's actually beneficial to us. So we're okay with it. But the other thing is that until we decide, enough people decide, that it doesn't matter what they call you, you will stand up for what you believe is right, even in the face of that kind of opposition. That's when change will happen. When you refuse to walk away from the labels because people are maligning them for no good goddamn reason, that's when change will happen. Oh no, I'm not walking away from this label because you're maligning it and you have no good goddamn reason to do so. So I'm going to run towards the label and I'm going to pick it up and I'm going to hold it up and I'm going to stick it in your fucking face.
2 + 2 = 4, not 5. And I'll be that one guy running away from the police in the paddy wagon with the banner that says 2 + 2 = 4.
Okay, so let me do a shill and we'll end this.
All right.
If you're not like this guy who wants us to walk away from basically what are our principles, which is the principle of standing with people who are maligned. Now, you're not running away from these labels and the people who hold them because they're not being fairly maligned, but actually standing with them and saying, hey, you got my shoulder, you got my voice, you can't hold that standard up, then I'll take it and hold it for you. If you believe in those kinds of principles, consider becoming a patron. www.patreon.com/honeybadgerradio. Every little bit helps. And if you don't want to become a patron and you see a group of people who are being falsely maligned, being told that they are Satan, and they actually are legitimately good people, and you can see that it's just because they're poking the powers that be in the eye, and they're being turned into Satan because of it. And I will remind you that the media seems to give KKK and Stormfront a pass in turning him into Satan. What does the media compare everything that they want to compare to negatively to? Gamergate and men's rights activists, not KKK and Stormfront, Gamergate and men's rights activists. What does that tell you? It doesn't fucking matter what you do. If you fucking stand up and say, this is my standard, I'm not going to take your shit, they will call you Satan because they know it will silence you. So if you want to stand with us and stand for those people who are unfairly maligned by the media and by the government and by academia and by society at large, just because they stood up against it. If you want to take these weapons away from people, then stand with us.
To repeat, we have not told you what you are. We have not told you what you should call yourself. That is entirely open to you. So please, for the love of all that is fuck, do not tell me what I should and should not call myself. You may only advise me on my actions. If you kindly fucking please, ladies and gentlemen.
But do consider, standing tall and not letting people call you Satan, so that they can control your actions. All right.